Hi guys, this is Erica from Gokce Capital. Now before I begin, be sure to click subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Randy Thompson is a quiet man. A third-generation cattle rancher, Randy rarely concerns himself with politics. That is, until TransCanada tried to run a pipeline through his parents' land. But more on the Keystone XL fight later. For first, I'm sure you can remember at least one contentious battle over a major infrastructure project. And it is through challenges to a project's environmental impact statement that opponents are able to delay or derail the undertaking. So in today's video, we have everything you need to know about this document. Number 1. What is an environmental impact statement? An environmental impact statement, also known as an EIS, is a document required by the 1969 National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA. It is required whenever the federal government funds or undertakes a major project or action that will impact the quality of the environment. Number 2. What is the purpose of an EIS? The statement is intended to act as an enforcement mechanism to ensure that the federal government adheres to the goals and policies that NEPA outlines. Specifically, the goal is to promote informed decision-making by federal agencies and ensure that they are taking into account both potential and existing environmental risks associated with the proposed project. Number 3. When is an EIS required? An EIS is required whenever a federal agency develops a proposal to undertake a major federal action, such as funding an infrastructure project. In addition, this action cannot be one that is categorically excluded from environmental analysis under NEPA, and an initial environmental assessment must also determine that there may be significant negative environmental impacts imposed by the project. Number 4. What are the steps in the EIS process? The first step is scoping. This is an initial meeting to discover what work and research must be done. Once the scope is determined, the public is notified that the relevant agency is preparing an EIS. The agency will then prepare a draft statement, at which point members of the public who are affected by the proposed action are welcome to provide feedback on the draft through written comments and public hearings. At the end of this process, the final EIS and proposed action is announced. There is then another 30-day waiting period where the public can again comment. At the end of this period, the agency can reevaluate to see if changes are required. If so, a supplemental EIS is drafted. And finally, a record of decision is recorded. Number 5. What may be discovered during an EIS? The project may be found to have an impact, such as contaminating areas of land or water, producing a public health risk, or negatively impacting nearby communities. Number 6. Once the EIS process is complete, what can opponents do if they disagree with the EIS's findings? Well, they can sue the agency in court, claiming that the EIS did not follow NEPA procedures or did not account for all negative impacts. And this is the point where a project typically becomes controversial and makes headlines. And finally, number 7. What are the limitations of an EIS? Environmental impact statements aren't perfect, and this is because those who are performing the analysis are simultaneously members of both the political and scientific communities. What this means is that the EIS may predict negative impacts of the project, but the decision makers can still decide to move ahead for political, economic, or security reasons. But let's return to Randy Thompson. One day, Randy received a phone call out of the clear blue sky from a land agent representing TransCanada. The company wanted to purchase an 80-acre easement across his parents' old homestead on which to bury a portion of the Keystone Pipeline that would funnel oil from the Alberta tar sands to Texas oil refineries. Randy hesitated. This was his parents' land after all, and it was sacred to him. But on a more prosaic level, Randy also worried about what such a pipeline would do to the land's well water. For much of Nebraska rests on top of the Ogallala Aquifer, a font of clean water that sits remarkably close to the ground's surface. And a single leak in the new pipeline could damage this water supply for generations to come. So Randy told the land agent no and thought that was the end of the matter. But a short time later, the company sent him a formal offer letter. Should Randy refuse, the letter said, the company would initiate an eminent domain action. This was when Randy got mad. You do not threaten a man's land in Nebraska. Thus started a long campaign that brought together ranchers, farmers, environmentalists, and indigenous activists, of which Randy would become the unlikely mascot. Together, this group convinced then-President Obama to deny a permit for the Keystone Project. But the victory was short-lived, for in 2017, incoming President Trump's administration reversed course and granted the permit on the basis of economic and national security interests. It was at this point that the environmental impact statement came into play. For the fight moved to the courts when the Indigenous Environmental Network sued the government, claiming it violated NEPA by improperly calculating how much the pipeline would contribute to climate change in its EIS analysis. The court agreed with the group, stating a supplemental EIS was required to address the deficiency. Yet President Trump got around this ruling by canceling the permit issued by his administration and reissuing a new one himself. This permit would no longer be an agency action, but a presidential one exempt from NEPA and the requirement to draft an EIS. Which just goes to show that, while an EIS can be a powerful tool to oppose a problematic project, it is not magic. There are ways to work around it, in this case, a simple stroke of the pen. So where does this leave Randy Thompson? Well, this year, when President Biden took office, he canceled the permit, which proved too much for TransCanada, now called TC Energy, and the company announced it would abandon the Keystone Project for good in June. So it seems Randy can return to a more peaceful life, secure in the knowledge that his water is safe. Now, do you have any stories about infrastructure projects or environmental impact statements? Let us know in the comments. Did you like this video? You're going to love our Gokce Land Due Diligence program. We'll make you a land due diligence expert in just 7 days. Check it out at gokcecapital.com/glad. And while you're at our website, don't forget to explore our $1 down listings at gokcecapital.com/listings. Finally, don't hesitate to reach out. You can email, call, or text, and we will respond as soon as possible. So thank you for listening, and more to come.